All right, let's talk about something we've all felt. That moment of absolute social panic when you just completely blank on someone's name. If you've ever beaten yourself up over this, I've got some really good news for you. It's probably not your fault. Today, we are going to get into the fascinating psychology of why names are so incredibly hard to remember.
Oh man, we have all been there. You see that familiar face, the conversation starts, and your brain just serves up absolutely nothing. A total void where a name should be. And the next few seconds are this wild internal scramble, right? You're just desperately hoping someone else says their name first. This isn't just some clumsy moment. It's actually a window into how our memory really works.
So, let's start by unpacking that awkwardness. We usually frame this as a personal failing, that we're rude or careless or just bad with names. But what if it's not a flaw at all? What if it's just the totally predictable outcome of a very specific process happening in your brain?
And this, right here, is the crucial thing to get. If you chronically forget names, it doesn't mean you're unintelligent or uninterested. Nope, there's something very, very specific happening on a cognitive level. And once you get what's going on, you can finally let go of all that guilt you've been carrying around.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of it. Why do names, specifically, seem to just evaporate from our memory? To understand this, we've got to look at what's happening inside your brain the very instant you meet someone new. The second you meet someone, your working memory is in total overdrive. You're analyzing their face, their voice, you're sizing up the social situation, you're wondering if you're making a good impression, and you're trying to think of something smart to say next. Your brain is juggling all of this at once. It's a moment of pure cognitive chaos.
And right into the middle of that chaos, someone just lobs this single, totally arbitrary sound at you. Hi, I'm Kevin. That word, Kevin, doesn't mean anything on its own. It doesn't connect to a feeling or an image or anything you already have stored in there. It's just this isolated piece of data, and your very busy brain has no immediate hook to hang it on.
Now, what's really cool is there's this classic psychological study that just nails this problem perfectly. It's called the Baker/Baker paradox. And it shows that the exact same word can be either incredibly sticky or incredibly slippery for our memory, and it all depends on the context.
So here's what the researchers did. They showed people a photo of a person. They told one group, this guy's last name is Baker. They told another group, this guy's job is a baker. Later on, when they tested them, the difference in who remembered was just massive.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the whole issue. The job baker immediately triggers this whole web of associations in your brain. You think of flour, ovens, the smell of fresh bread, maybe a white hat. It has meaning. But the name Baker, it activates nothing. It's semantically empty. It just floats there, completely untethered to anything you know.
Here's a really powerful way to think about it. Think about a deeply emotional event, like a funeral. You remember the feeling in the room, right? The smell of the flowers, something specific someone said that really hit you, but you almost certainly do not remember the text printed on the order of service. Your brain, without even asking you, decided what was important to store. Names, they're the order of service. Everything else about a person is the funeral.
All right, so let's shift to another huge factor, because it's not just about memory architecture. For a lot of us, it's about what's going on inside our own heads, especially for anybody who deals with social anxiety.
While someone is introducing themselves, if you're an anxious person, you're not just listening, not even close. You're running this constant, critical, internal monologue. You're so busy editing your own performance in real time that the other person's name flies into your ear and is immediately just bulldozed by your own inner narration. This is so common it actually has a name. It's called the next-in-line effect. Psychologists found that when people are in a group, they have terrible memory for what the person right before them said. Why? Because they were too busy rehearsing their own part. Well, people with high social anxiety are basically stuck in this mode all the time.
So here's the crucial point, and it's a huge reframe if this sounds like you. You don't have a memory problem. You have a preoccupation problem. Your attention is turned inward, not outward, and that changes absolutely everything.
But okay, here's where it gets really, really interesting. This type of brain, the kind that's bad with names, often has a different, and you could say a very powerful kind of memory. It's not a flaw, it's just a particular architecture.
Just look at this contrast. Your brain may forget the label, but it remembers the texture of who a person is. It gets rid of that arbitrary sound, but holds on to the story they told you about their sister. It forgets the printed text, but it remembers the feeling of that conversation.
This is the classic profile of a highly associative thinker. Their memory is just rich with context and stories and feelings. Their brain was busy cataloging everything about the interaction except for that one arbitrary label. You know, this kind of mental setup is actually way better suited for things like emotional attunement, that kind of deep listening that makes other people feel truly seen and understood.
So, as we start to wrap this up, the goal isn't just to find some tricks to remember names. It's really to reevaluate what our brains choose to remember and why we feel so much shame when they just happen to discard what society tells us is important.
Now, all this might make you ask, so should I just give up on trying to remember names? Well, not necessarily. There are practical techniques that exist, and they actually work for a very specific reason.
You've probably heard these simple tricks, right? Repeat the name back, connect it to a visual, build some kind of wild association. These work precisely because you are manually doing the work your brain refuses to do on its own. You are literally building that bridge between the arbitrary sound and something that already has meaning in your mind.
But the real takeaway, the thing I really want you to leave with, is this. That quiet, low-grade belief that forgetting a name makes you a bad or uncaring person, it's just plain wrong. It is not a moral failure. It's a sign of a brain that is preoccupied, or maybe a brain that is simply built to prioritize the texture of an experience over its label.
And I want to leave you with this final thought. A name is often the least interesting thing about a person. It's an arbitrary sound they were given before they'd done a single thing worth remembering. What you actually remember about them, their stories, the way they laughed, the real stuff, that part's still there. That's what your brain held on to. And maybe, just maybe, that's what truly matters.